Hello everyone, welcome to the Positron lab. Today we are going simply to characterize airflows so as to determine our in-current quantity of flow and to determine the flow regimes. Later we will introduce a radioactive source. Let me introduce you to the components that we have in this lab setup. You will notice from the orange orifice, this is in-current air, simply compressed air, that is flowing in through this line. Ultimately, that will be connected to a source such as a linear accelerator, a sodium-22 chamber, or maybe even a reactor such as the Ag201M. This air, or this beamline, is hence introduced into the source chamber. You will notice that in this source chamber, for which we are using a 3-neck beaker, there is a thermometer so that we can determine whether conditions are adiabatic or thermal. We can adjust those temperatures as we desire. In-current air, of course, is coming in, you will notice there on the right side, and then it will come into the reaction vessel. Now today, as I mentioned, we will not be using our radioactive sources. We are instead going to produce a verification experiment by introducing iodine. I too, of course, will generate a beautiful purple wave front, and you'll be able to see that momentarily. Then once this evaporates, it will then enter the tube to your left, and then will run down that tube, whence it will be introduced into this reaction chamber here. On the way to the reaction chamber, we have a flow metering apparatus set up here, and you will notice that the air will come in and then it will be introduced into this chamber. We also have a water jacket so as to maintain the temperature at around 20 degrees Celsius. And then for iodine vapor, although we're not really concerned about toxicity, nevertheless we are going to evacuate that via this line here, which will then go over to the drain, whence it will be diluted by the outgoing water. In the background you will notice cabling. This will ultimately, this line here will be replaced by an electromagnetic beam guide. We're simply trying to establish conditions and flow regimes at this stage. Later we will be introducing electromagnetism because positrons, being antimatter, are positively charged, and we thence want to introduce them into the chamber. There will be a large outer jacket, and as a matter of fact, we will have a primary and secondary coil. Let's stop for just a moment, and we will now introduce the iodine in the chamber, and then we will start with very low flow regimes and move on up into laminar, thence to intermediate flow, and then into turbulent flow regimes.